Hi everyone, my name is Joseph and today I want to discuss Digimon Liberator Episode 2, Part 2. So I'm going to be completely upfront with everyone. While I did enjoy Episode 2 as a whole, I do believe that Part 2 and also Part 1 didn't really have much in terms of narration or plot information. I think Episode 2, what its purpose was, what it was serving for the audience, was helping to set up the world building and the setting for the characters and the story. With that being said, though, I did enjoy Episode 2 as a whole, and I think it does a really fine job of setting up the characterization of Shoto, Ariza, more specifically though Shoto and Terramon, or in this instance, Terramon was basically in his evolved form, Grand Gelmon. We do get a little bit of Ariza and Shumon, but not too much, unfortunately. But again, as I stated, I believe Episode 2, which is meant to help set up how the world will be operating from here on out. Because if one is a Digimon fan, then we have heard of the card game before, the TCG, what does that stand for? The Toto card game, I believe, or something along that line. But they may not have actual personal experience with playing the game itself. So for me, it makes sense why Digimon Liberator, while Bandai Namco would take the time to go ahead and set everything up to have it clear and concise for the readers. With that being said, I am enjoying the card battles so far. I did grow up watching things like Yu-Gi-Oh!, Metabots, and I can't think of another example off the top of my head, but essentially what I'm trying to highlight are shows where my cat's gonna knock over my water bottle. Give me a second, everyone. Oh no, she didn't knock over my tissue box, so I guess that was more my fault. Pardon me, everyone. Thank you for your patience. As I was saying, what those shows that I just mentioned, what they have in common is the fact that the protagonists take turns in their interactions. So when they fight, they don't just fight in a traditional sense. They player 1 takes third turn, player 2 takes third turn, and sometimes in Yu-Gi-Oh!, and I believe this is true for Metabots as well, there will sometimes be partner battles too, right? Not so for Metabots though, because they didn't really take turns per se, but they still call out attacks and stuff like that. So I do have some experience in terms of card, not battles as in I'm actually playing, but card shows. I do have experience with. I guess another slight example would be Mega Man Battle Network. Again, excuse me, everyone, that was my cat. She knocked over my V-Pet. Thankfully, it's inside a silicone case though. So, anywho, So I believe that's what Episode 2 was setting up for the viewer, for the reader. And again, as someone who's never played the card game, I did enjoy how it was set up. It was a bit quick, it was a bit fast, and I'm hoping if I was to sit down and try to learn how to play the card game from the webcomic, I will probably not be very successful. So I'm going to assume, for those who do play the card game, I'm going to assume that the Liberator comic does a serviceable job of demonstrating how the card game is let me rephrase that. I'm going to assume if one does play the card game, that Liberator does a serviceable job of representing the game within the webcomic itself. Excuse me, everyone, I know I'm stumbling with my words right there, but hopefully it made sense what I stated. With all that being said, though, there is a quote that I really did much enjoy and appreciate, and it's specifically when Shoto feels like he's about to give up because the NPC has gotten rid of all of his barricades or his energy shields. As a quick reminder, at the end of Part 1 of Episode 2, Shoto has 3, but now at this point he has 0, and he's feeling quite dejected about that. But of course, Grand Gelmon states, "Hey, why the sad look on your face? Are you giving up again? You have to enjoy the difficult situations and use them. You have to enjoy the difficult situations and use them to your advantage. Rookie, why are you? You drew a great card. Use that card and show them what we're made of." So again, pardon me, I know I read that a bit awkwardly. What I'm thinking about doing from the future here on out, when I read Liberator, I might reduce the web page magnification. Right now I have it on default 100, and I am using Firefox. I'm not gonna lie, the page is just a bit too big. I'm thinking, what if next time I reduce it, maybe it'll make reading the actual comic, and also in addition to that, reading the quotes a bit more manageable. That's a bit of a tangent. So anyways, why do I like this quote? It goes in connection with what I stated previously, but rather than demonstrating Grand Gelmon's determination, I really like that this emphasizes his optimistic outlook as well. Shoto is feeling quite dejected because he understands or realizes that he's very close to losing. If he's not careful, he's going to lose this match completely. And that's something to be a bit frightened of, maybe to be a bit anxious about, because again, one mustn't forget, this battle was not by choice. This battle between Shoto and the NPC was forced upon the human player. The NPC just came out of nowhere. For all we know, when Shoto loses this match, his consciousness might disappear. But that's me, the viewer, combining viewer and reader. That's me, the reader, projecting my own ideas essentially, because I have read and watched other stories. Like, for example, since we talked about Yu-Gi-Oh, sometimes when they lose, they'll go into the Shadow Realm, right? This hasn't been stated yet in Digimon Liberator, but I know in Cyber Sleuth, battles weren't evolved, but there was the case of unconscious individuals, so it wouldn't surprise me, and also with Seekers, of course, right, DMIA, so it wouldn't surprise me if an element like that was to reoccur. But I'm just projecting my own ideas, but if I was in Shoto's shoes, even if I didn't know what would occur if I were to lose, that would be in my mind. I'll be thinking to myself, oh no, I hope my soul will be okay, I hope my consciousness will be okay and left inside my own body. So again, I don't blame Shoto so much for being a little bit apprehensive, anxious, and dare I say, a little bit scared. But I think that's healthy and I think that's perfectly normal. I think it's also great how Grand Gilmon, rather than berating Shoto, saying things like, Shoto, you coward, or Shoto, you fool, what are you thinking? I would argue that Grand Gilmon is being assertive, but also friendly with his assertiveness. Let me go back to the beginning of the quote. He states, hey, while the sad look on your face. So again, instead of him mocking Shoto, Grand Gilmon is, acknowledging Shoto's emotions. While the sad look on your face, acknowledging that Shoto is feeling a kind of emotion. Are you giving up again? Again, not in a mocking tone, just reminding Shoto that when Terramon first came, Shoto was very much feeling at a loss, but Terramon's what convinced Shoto to continue fighting. Well, in case one forgot, in episode 1, Shoto wanted to forfeit the game as he was unsure of what to do forward since his cards were blank. So I do like this. Are you giving up again? You have to enjoy the difficult situations and use them to your advantage. Once again, there's no mockery or mocking tone within the statement. It's just Grand Gilmon sharing his own perspective with Shoto while also trying to encourage Shoto, acknowledging, hey, yeah, it's fine to feel a bit downtrodden, but you also need to remember that there's always going to be a path forward when one takes into account their context, their situation. Don't just give up, but do your best to go back on top. This kind of reminds me a little bit of the Star Wars fight, Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Anakin Skywalker. Obi-Wan, what does he utilize to his advantage? The high ground. That's why he wins against Anakin, right? One could argue that Obi-Wan was maybe not in the same position as Shoto, but I would argue that Obi-Wan was more than likely feeling quite sad about what he needed to do. The fighting, the ring, not the ring, but the fighting ground where the match was taking place was quite difficult terrain. With one scene, episode 3, you know what I'm referring to. Yet despite that, what does Kenobi do at the end? He takes advantage of the difficult situation that he's in to win against Skywalker. So I know, a bit of a silly example, but I think that same idea would apply right here. And I like how Grand Gilmon again is being very supportive. And although he does say rookie, I would argue that that's more in a playful kind of way, like when your friend needs assistance, you might tell them, I'm trying to think of an example. I can't think of any examples at the top of my head. Well, I could think of one, but it includes the B word. I don't really want to cuss if I don't need to in the video. And also, it's a bit of a gendered example as well, so I don't want to do that in case it comes off incorrectly wrong because of tone of voice. But I'll just use the same word right here. For example, one of your friends is feeling quite downtrodden because they did poorly at their work assessment. They got yelled at by the boss or something like that. You might tell them, excuse me, perfect example, noob, right? If you're playing with your friends in Destiny 2, for example, you might tell your friend might ask you, oh man, I don't know where to go turn in this bounty or this quest that I have. What should I do? And you might tell them, noob, just go speak to Commander Zavala. He's just right there, right? So when they say noob, I'm not saying it as in, you're such a noob. What a fool you are. They're saying it with affection, right? Noob, it's over there. Go turn your quest in, and after that, we'll continue our little Guardian adventures. So I really like that about this use of rookie. I would argue again, it's more in terms of endearment rather than being assaulting. And then I love how Shoto states, "Why are you?" But then Grand Gilmon stops in. You drew a great card. Use that card and show them what we're made of. The use of the plural right here, what we're made of, again for me really emphasizes how Terramon or Grand Gilmon, he really much is not just thinking about himself, but he really is thinking in the sense of team oriented perspective already, and I really do appreciate that. As I stated with the first episode, Terramon really does remind me of Logomon, and Logomon at first could come off as the wrong way. I think one could be like, oh, Logomon, you're too assertive, where it makes you a bit rude and selfish. Terramon does reminds me of that aspect as well, but in a much more positive flip side of that coin. Rather than coming off as just abrasive because that's just his personality, Terramon's coming off as abrasive because he likes to work in a community. He likes doing teamwork. So kind of like the opposite between someone who'd rather be second in command versus someone who wants to be at the head and leading all the time. I do really appreciate that. And I do really like that and show them what we're made of. It makes me look forward to what other battles and adventures that Shoto and Terramon are going to be participating in. So as I stated, I would argue episode 2 doesn't really have much in terms of story, and unfortunately Ariza and Shumon don't have much in terms of dialogue. They had some dialogue, which was quite comical and quite fun in episode 2 part 1, but in episode 2 part 2, Ariza just shows concern towards Shoto, and that's essentially it. With that being said, though, I do like, even if it was a little bit of dialogue, I do like how they do a good job, the writers, of really emphasizing that there is a friendship between Shoto and Ariza, and that they care about one another. Again, I think that would make sense because this random Digimon just jumped into Ariza's hands, and again, this random NPC is challenging Shoto to a random battle. So I am quite happy that the writers are not forgetting that little aspect. So again, of course, Ariza is going to be concerned, and once again, that's why Shoto is freezing up multiple times. Hopefully that makes sense. With all that being said, Grand Gilmon, he evolves once again into his ultimate form, which is known as Zephagamon, and essentially the chapter ends, or the episode 2 part 2 ends with Shoto being able to commence a great player or card tactic, I suppose, with the support, of course, of Zephagamon, and it ends, and he's quite excited about the win that he's done. And I love how the comic concludes. I'm going to the page right now. So Shoto states, in disbelief. So right off the bat, the page has a winner with a little crown. It says S. Kasama. So the initial of his first name and then Shoto's last name. And Shoto looks in disbelief, and then he states I won. And then he clenches his fists going forward, and he throws the fist in the air. I really won. And Ariza looks happy for him, but also kind of like calm down a little bit. You've only won one, but I'm happy you won your first one. And she's stating, "Good job." And Shoto looks quite happy, and then it shows Zephagamon's card, and then it says to be continued. I also like that Zephagamon before this panel, it shows him kind of like rubbing his nose. He looks happy for Shoto. I do wish that Shoto had said we won rather than I won, but when I think about the context, I think this makes a lot of sense because we mustn't forget, we being the reader, that up to this point, Shoto has been losing all of his Liberator battles. He's fine when it comes to the card game itself, but when it comes to the Liberator game, utilizing the card game in a virtual capacity, Shoto has not been doing so well, so this is his first win. So when he states that I win, I don't see it as a selfish statement, but rather it's more in disbelief. Oh, I finally won my first match. My only complaint about this is I do wish the panel shows the D-box closing, says click. I think it would have been cool if they showed Terramon's little head again, saying like congratulations or something quickly like that. But maybe they wanted to be serious with the tone, because obviously if Terramon does do that, it does look a little bit comical, a head on top of a box. And the last statement I do have as well is my last video I stated that I think it would be kind of cool if there was two kinds of battles, the traditional card battle, but then also the fights that fans are used to from the anime and games and everything like that. But it's looking like with episode 2, I might be wrong about that. The reason why I said that with episode 1 is because Terramon was talking from the D-box despite there being other Terramon being played on the field. So in my head I thought, oh, those other Terramon are just avatars, and the real Terramon, he's going to be advocating for Shoto, kind of like instead of Pikachu going inside the Pokeball, he's always supporting Ash. Kind of like that, but Terramon does go inside the box, but it will be with his little head advising Shoto what to do. But with episode 2, it seems like Terramon does actually go into the field because the Grand Gelmon, when the quote that I used earlier in the video, that's coming from Grand Gelmon himself, not from Terramon. So I'm going to go back on that statement that I made. I'm a little bit disappointed, I'm not going to lie. I think it would have been cool to have two kinds of battles. The battles that humans utilize Digimon for Liberator, and then the wild Digimon fights, Digimon in the wild doing their own thing. Hopefully that makes sense. Hoping that episode 3 will continue with the plot, will continue with the narration, give us more information about who the villains are, who the side characters are going to be, the minor characters. Up to this point so far, though, I am still enjoying the story. And again, for episode 2, I'm going to chalk it up as helping to set up the context of the card battles and also the characterization. Going forward from here, we, the audience, we now know Ariza's demeanor, Shoto's behavior, and then, of course, Terramon. The only ones that we need to continue working on will be Shumon. All we've seen from Shumon is just that they're quite apprehensive, which I think makes sense. I believe they were being chased by someone. Hopefully we'll find out more about that in episode 3. But Shumon, Mochomon, and then I'm forgetting the name of the other Digimon that Ariza was using before she discovered Shumon. But I would argue that the protagonists, the main characters that the audience wants to get to know of, would be Shoto, Ariza, and of course Terramon. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I really do appreciate it. My question for everyone... Oops, dang it. I opened the wrong program. I meant to go back to QuickTime Video. Anyways, thank you for your patience. My question for everyone is, what's your opinion so far of the pacing of the story? Do you wish there was more major plot revelations, or are you okay with the pacing that's been set up so far? Have a great day, everyone. Have a prodigious day. And again, thank you so much for listening, or watching. And again, as always, I appreciate your patience. Have a prodigious day, everyone, and take care.